Well, good morning, Brenda. A chilly morning in Parliament, perhaps in resonance with the anxiety among the female legislators and other lobby groups that have been pushing for the enactment of the elusive, not more than 2/3 gender parity law that comes for a crucial vote in the afternoon. It is a bill that has elicited mixed reactions from legislators here, one that has a sunset clause of 20 years, beginning after the 2022 polls. It is a bill sponsored by National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale. This being the second time that he's making an attempt to have this law enacted after a flopped attempt before the 2017 polls due to lack of quorum. A subsequent attempt by former nominated Senator Judith Sijeni also flopped for lack of quorum. And as the vote comes in the afternoon, a critical question is that of quorum. And there are reports that should there not be the requisite number of members in the House, the mover of the motion might seek a postponement of the vote ostensibly to next year when Parliament resumes from recess. Remember, one of the fears of key proponents of this legislation has been that pushing the vote too close to the recess for Parliament, which is set for next week, could see the House lack the required number. Remember, Duale must be able to marshal up to 233 legislators to support this bill, but even the question of those 233 legislators being in the House as at the time of that vote is one that is already nagging key proponents of this legislation. But besides that, let's talk to MP for Kiminini, who has been a key voice that has been in objection of this bill that comes for a critical vote in the afternoon. Mheshimiwa, your reasons for objecting this bill has been that you fear that there might be extension of the favoritism that we've seen in political parties, even in the nomination of women to these special seats. Do you still hold the same view?
Yeah, there are two things. One is that Parliament is bloated. We can no longer bloat Parliament anymore, and I believe that we can still attain gender parities within the seats provided for within the Constitution. That is 349. Two, we do not have a clear formula. Political parties in this country are never formed on ideologies, but they are formed as private entities. And such process, if given powers, they will quite often they will misuse such powers and nominate people into the National Assembly and the Senate, people that do not deserve. Three, while acknowledging the need to comply with the law, there is need to create certain constituencies that will elect the people that are going to represent them, not just handpicking people. When you are nominated, your loyalty is to the nominating authority.
But Mheshimiwa, why not pass the legislation, then come up with regulations on what is going to be the criteria for picking these special seats, and perhaps after every election? Why not pass the bill now, then come up with the regulations for this selection for the special seats?
You cannot pass the bill now because the bill as it is, it suggests a formula of nominating. But as we are saying that Kenyans must be given an opportunity to elect whoever they want them, whoever they want to represent them. And that's why, as long as the Duale bill has that element of nominating, then we are not going to support. And we have employed all manner of tactics to deny the House quorum that this bill can flop, so that we can come together as a House and as Kenyans to be able to chart the way forward and look into other ways and means of raising the women members of Parliament to a third, without necessarily bloating Parliament.
Then would you, because you're also talking about likely lack of quorum in the afternoon, then is it a confirmation that even your fellow male counterparts that have been pushing for this bill have just been doing lip service? Because we have seen them talk on the floor of the House, marshal numbers, and promise to vote for this particular bill, but there are already fears that there might not be quorum. Is it a confirmation that perhaps your fellow legislators have been doing lip service on the floor of the House?
Absolutely. Even today morning, you've seen the Speaker ringing the bell. There was no quorum today in the morning, and I doubt if these people are going to work. We have we learned from how Duale manipulated during that time when we were voting against the presidential reservations in memo, in terms of the 8% VAT, and we have really improved his version. So we are not going to have quorum here, and the mood out there, many Kenyans are saying they do not want any additional member of parliament. Let us look for a way.
Perhaps if we could move because of the rain, Mwenda, is it possible perhaps we could move as you articulate your point? Because the question has been, we have seen your counterparts lobby so hard for this bill to pass. We see them on the floor of the House doing that, but then we do not get quorum, and it's not the first time this is happening. It has happened before, even at the Senate. So whom would you blame? Is it that the drafter of this bill did not do adequate consultation, or is it that you were never consulted when this particular bill was being drafted on the issues that you thought should have been included in the particular bill?
Yeah, you know, members of parliament represent constituencies, and we have expressed instructions from our constituencies to shoot down this bill on the basis that parliament is already bloated. So what the leader of majority should do going forward is to open such process to all Kenyans in terms of coming up with various suggestions of attaining gender parity without necessarily bloating parliament. Or because the drafters of the bill were very clear when they said under Article 97, they set out how parliament is structured, and altering the structure of parliament, I think it goes against the letter and the spirit that is being seen out there. People are saying parliament, we have too many members of parliament. In fact, we should be reduced to a reasonable number. When you are a school, you cannot debate soberly. But when you are a few members of parliament, then you debate properly. And we're also saying that the right for Kenyans to elect the people they want should not be taken away. We cannot give such powers to political parties, because even if we are electing, we are getting people to fill the gender gap. These people, they are representing some particular constituencies. If they are people with disabilities, if they are men, they are representing some constituencies. Those constituencies should be given an opportunity to decide on who represents them.
Thank you so much for your time, Mheshimiwa. Brenda, remember, the larger question is the likely constitutional implications of a flop in this particular bill. Back in 2012, under a bench chaired by retired Chief Justice Willy Mutunga, former Attorney General Professor Gitobu Imanyara sought an advisory opinion from the Supreme Court on the modalities for implementation of the not more than two-thirds gender rule. And at the time, remember, the Supreme Court did give an ultimatum of 5 years, dating back from the date of promulgation of the 2010 Constitution on the 27th of August 2010, that translating to 27th of August 2015. Parliament sought an extension of 1 year, within which time Duale was able to draft the first bill seeking to enforce this elusive gender parity law, but that bill flopped. Then subsequently, female women lobby groups did go to the High Court, and Justice John Mativo, just before the 2017 polls, gave a judgment in which he warned Parliament that it stood the risk of a dissolution if it did not enact that legislation within 60 days. That did not happen. Remember, Article 261, subsection 7, gives the powers to the Chief Justice to advise the President to dissolve Parliament if any of the critical 48 legislations that were slated in the 5th schedule of the Constitution were not implemented, despite instructions from court for Parliament to do that. And that happening now 8 years since the promulgation of the Constitution. There's definitely a debate that is expected to gather momentum depending on how the afternoon vote goes. Brenda.
All right, thank you so much, Murimi Mwangi, for that. Still on matters gender bill, and all eyes will be on the National Assembly as legislators vote on a bill seeking to enforce the not more than two-thirds gender rule in Parliament. But as Murimi Mwangi now reports, there are already fears that this bill could flop for the third time over poll lobbying ahead of the crucial vote.
From donning white turbans within chambers to a persistent charm offensive on leaders of key political parties in Parliament, female legislators and lobby groups have in recent days been a busy lot, lobbying for support of their male counterparts behind a bill sponsored by National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale, seeking to enforce gender parity in Parliament with a crucial vote slated for Wednesday afternoon.
As the leader of majority who's used to this business, my fingers are crossed, and I'll keep on lobbying up to the last minute.
But I can assure you 100%, I feel it in me because I have seen it in the men colleagues, that they want to do something that even their girls would remember them for. So I believe that they will come in, we shall have the numbers, and we are going to pass this thing.
The bill, with a sunset clause of 20 years beginning after the 2022 polls, seeks to actualize the not more than 2/3 gender principle through creation of special seats for either of the disadvantaged gender. In the National Assembly, for instance, of the 290 single constituency members of Parliament, 268 are men, while 22 are women. A third of 290 translates to 97. Adding the 47 woman representatives from the counties and the 6 nominated female legislators in the House to the 22 elected members, total 75. Meaning 22 more women would need to be nominated to make a third of 290. Using the same arithmetic, the Senate falls short of meeting this principle by only 2 women.
Even without holding a PG, our members stand whipped to support such an important bill.
There isn't the necessary political will or intent to actually pass this law. So I would be very, very surprised myself if a miracle happens on that day and we get this law passed.
We are the 44th tribe.
To sail through, Duale must marshal 233 legislators to be in the chambers and to vote for the bill, while a subsequent vote of 45 of the 67 senators is mandatory before the bill can be presented to President Uhuru Kenyatta to sign it into law. Now, with the enormous task of raising 233 members to vote for the bill, Duale and other proponents of this legislation no doubt face an uphill task as the clock ticks fast to the crucial vote. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News in Parliament.